Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Oddsac from 2010. And this was a winner of the movie review vote. It was actually the least voted on in a special 1 month kind of different thing I was doing. But if you would like for me to review a movie of your choice, then click on the link below to my Patreon and pledge, and maybe I'll be reviewing your movie next month. And this movie was selected by Autumn Sounds. Check out the link below. They're pretty cool. So this is the Animal Collective movie, basically. I think they made other stuff, but this is a visual album. You actually cannot listen to this as an individual soundtrack. They refuse because basically they would sort of make imagery and then make music to fit the imagery and vice versa, and they feel it's very connected, so they don't want to put it on Spotify and all that stuff, although they feel like fans will just rip it anyway, but whatever. So Animal Collective, I've never really listened to at all, so this is like my first time really sitting down with them ever. I have no good reason to. I probably should. I know they have that album Meriwether Post Pavilion. I think they grew up in a different part of Maryland than I grew up in, and Meriwether Post Pavilion is like a venue. It's not cool at all. It's like the most in control. My godfather always calls it rock and roll under control, like the most controlled venue you've ever been to. So I was always confused why they would name an album like that. And that's all my anecdotes on them. Totally, really. So I was interested in that. I don't know any context, and I understand this is more experimental than the Meriwether Post Pavilion album, which everyone was worried they were going to go mainstream or something. Thus, Anthony Fantano and other reviews have told me. But I like the experimental weirdness of this because this honestly feels like, and I don't mean this in a jerky kind of dismissive way, a very well filmed kind of student art film. Because there's so many times you're looking at imagery of somebody who's in a silly costume, but they shoot it the right way. And even though I know I'm looking at someone in a silly costume with all this like noise, crazy, art rock going on and all that stuff, it still works. And that is a really hard thing to do. I've seen a lot of bad art school movies, and this is not one of them. This is a very well directed one. This was directed by Danny Perez, who it was kind of a collaboration with Danny Perez and Animal Collective. I mean, I read they spent like 4 years developing this thing, and it wasn't a simple edit. There's like cutting between imagery, there's animation, there's all this sort of stuff going on within it, but it has a real flow and a purpose to what it's doing, and it understands like what to show and what not to show in a real smart way. Actually, I wouldn't say like as much as this could be considered sensory overload or too much stuff going on or too weird and strange or just a thing you'd have on while you're high and stuff. There's an actual artistry going on here, and I do actually really appreciate it when I was watching it. I mean, apparently this is more experimental from them. I enjoyed it. I think the only song I really liked was Mr. Fingers. I think it's called Mr. Fingers. It doesn't say what the songs are, so I might be wrong, but I really like the first song at the very least. I like some of the other ones, but that one really stuck out to me. I would have added it to my Spotify stuff, but you can't, so whatever. It's strange because I think if you're reviewing the movie, you're sort of reviewing the album because they are one and the same, and I think that would be appropriate. I thought it's a good album, but it did kind of, I feel like, work better at the beginning of it, and the noise stuff with the woods and the outdoors thing was interesting. Actually, I thought that's not imagery you expect from noise stuff. In my mind, you'd think of like electronics and technology and not out in the field. So it was an interesting way to sort of view that kind of music. Also, the one sequence that became sort of like a monster movie was interesting. It did feel like a dirty, weird B monster movie that had smudges on the frame and stuff like that, kind of monster movie. And they filmed it as such, and I think that it worked. That ends up, even though it's silly and you can almost guess like how they filmed it or whatever, was very effective. I thought they did a good job. That's, I think, the thing about this and why, because I was wondering, like, I've heard about this from various people over the years and why this has stuck out. It's various bands have made surreal kind of movies and they kind of stick out because of the fandom of it. But I think with this, there is kind of more. I mean, I don't think you're seeing this to like just see what the guys in Animal Collective look like. I think that would be a really fool's errand here. But it is kind of like this massive sensory experience. The animation parts, I will say, are cool, but they come off like, oh, cool, it's a neat screensaver. There's some parts I think that aren't like that, but there's some animation parts where it's like, that's the screensaver. Like, is this like the visualization thing on Windows Media Player or something? Like, it looked like a cool one of those, but I was like confused, especially because people used those more when this came out. Like, why you would, what was that like? That I just found to be a little silly. The actual sequences where they filmed people outside, had them wear the weird costumes and stuff like that, I thought that was like pretty cool and interesting, and really showed like why they'd want to do something like that, because as kind of silly and weird and stuff as it is, it's uniquely this movie. And that is something I really liked about it. It didn't make me an Animal Collective fan necessarily. I have thought about listening to them since. Have not. They're just like, I don't know. Me and them just aren't connecting, I guess. But I enjoyed this film. If you're into kind of weirder, stranger, noisier, experimental kind of stuff, I would absolutely say you should see this movie. I think it, and I'm glad I saw this one because I don't get to see a lot of experimental, weird shit anymore, unfortunately. So it was like putting my toe back in. You know, it's not the greatest experimental music, whatever piece in the world or anything, but it's a pretty decent one in my mind, and it was definitely a good experience. And it's under an hour, which I always love when movies are short, so it doesn't, I think, as weird and as strange as it is, you kind of know you're not stuck in this rabbit hole. You know, you can, like, you know, get out pretty quickly. So that's also very nice. It's an interesting idea. I think that's, you know, the way they made it and having the visuals and the music together in such a way. But to me, it's like, I wish the music was available. I think that's kind of a stupid thing. You know, I get their point, but there's lots of people who change music in movies and cartoons and stuff, and they still release the music. It's like, to me, it's like being difficult for difficult sake and acting like it's some sort of artistic integrity. But the movie and the music and the whole package of it, I think it comes out to be probably one of the more interesting experimental films of the 2010s, which is not known for that, really. It was an interesting enough album. I liked listening to it the one time I did. But the visuals don't round out of me. I think Danny Perez did a very excellent job, even towards the end with like the table thing in the house with, like, I don't know if it was a man or a woman, and all that glitter stuff and the girls around him. I like the visuals in that. It's kind of interesting. I think I fell off the music earlier than I fell off with the visuals, which I didn't expect. I thought, is the Animal Collective movie, I'd come off wanting to listen to more Animal Collective. I wouldn't mind hearing, you know, watching more stuff from Danny Perez actually after this, maybe a little more, because he was able to get this to work as well as he did. This worked all throughout it. I think it has a strange ass flow to it, but I think that was absolutely the point. It made me curious about the band Animal Collective. Maybe that this review is a little strange because I don't think anyone's really reviewed this who doesn't really know who they are. This wasn't really theatrically released beyond a few festivals and a few screenings, and then went to DVD. It did play Sundance, but I don't know if this is the greatest intro to Animal Collective. I'm sure people have a thing and they're going to say in the comments, hey dude, you should have listened to Merriweather Post Pavilion first or something. But it does make me curious, and I think it's the kind of cool, experimental, strange movie you wouldn't mind having on, you know, in college or something like that, and you probably watch more than once because you want to keep showing people and keep noticing things. And in my mind, it feels like there was something else there. There's different things you could get from it. It feels like it's a film you'd want to get your teeth in a few times and explore that imagery. And I think the visual nature of it and the whole idea of it as a film, Oddsac as a film, is very full, almost like too full for its 15 minutes, and that's an interesting thing to watch as a viewer. I do think what Animal Collective did as an artistic statement in the fullness of it very much worked. I just thought the album sort of ran out of steam at the end, but I guess there isn't an album, so in a sense what I just said doesn't exist, but Oddsac itself does exist. It's a very interesting kind of like experimental rock film, which somehow just keeps working in spite of itself. So if you've seen Oddsac and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. And this was a winner of the Patreon movie review vote. If you would like for me to review a movie of your choice, then click on the link below and pledge, and maybe I'll be reviewing your movie next month. Thanks for watching. night.